Encanto is the latest animated film from Disney made for children, which is causing random middle-aged men to get angry online. It is the story of Mirabel, who is the only member of her large family not to have a magical gift. It's an interesting film and one that was actually a little difficult for me to watch in places. Mirabel's uncle Bruno is excluded and shunned and not talked about in the family for not having the right kind of gift, while Mirabel herself is made to feel like absolute crap, mostly by her grandmother but also by the members of the family, because she doesn't have one at all. She's treated really poorly and it's genuinely heartbreaking to watch, especially when you kind of feel like Mirabel yourself, you know? I come from a family where my parents constantly told me I was a disappointment as a teenager, and like, I wasn't. I got the best grades out of my siblings, I got into the best uni, and I did it all while working 2 jobs, but I also had a lot of problems in school and emotional issues, and I didn't really have a lot of friends, and I hated being in school. And so I'd like, you know, turn up late and stuff because I was trying to skip form period and all the like bullying and uncomfortableness and isolation and everything I felt in there. So I was in trouble in school a fair amount, and because of that, my parents were always like asking me why I couldn't be more like Sarah Jane and Warren, and telling me that like I was a disappointment compared to them and stuff. So I definitely felt like Mirabel being compared to her 2 older sisters a lot. So this one was a bit of an emotional one for me. It was difficult, but unlike Mirabel, I never got an apology and a hug at the end of it because, you know, real life isn't a Disney film. However, I also felt like Mirabel's sister Luisa, who this video is about, I really liked her character because she reminded me a lot of my own sister. Luisa always feels like she has to be the strong one and support and carry everyone else in the family, and she's not allowed to show any weakness. She's both physically and emotionally the strongest member of the family and the one who holds it all together, and for that reason she reminded me of Sarah Jane a lot. And that's why I think I liked her character so much. She's a really, really great character, and I do wish she got more screen time, but funnily enough, she's the one that's making random middle-aged white guys angry, and I just find it so ridiculous. It's really, really silly. So today we're going to be looking at an article written by one of these men, Jeff Wright, who thinks his outdated opinion on a kid's cartoon actually matters, for whatever reason. Jeff Wright describes himself as a family man, teacher, and pastor, and he wrote a thoroughly ridiculous article titled "Encanto's Luisa is way too beefy for a woman," so you know this is already going to be terrible. Before we go any further, because I always forget to mention this stuff, if you're new here, it would be great if you want to subscribe. If you've been around for a while, also check you haven't been unsubscribed by YouTube, because that's been happening a little bit recently as well. If you want to see more videos from me, I talk about all sorts of stuff from books and poetry and reviews and science and history and just kind of all kinds of educational and fun content like that. Basically, whatever topics interest me at the time, I try and teach you about them, and it's fun, I hope. And of course, if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and a comment and share the video around, because it all really, really helps me and keeps me making more videos. So thank you. Also, if you like this makeup look, I tried to do it inspired by Encanto and the colour schemes in it, and I haven't played with makeup in a long time because I kind of had a bit of a knock to my confidence and, I don't know, got scared for a while, so now I'm back to try and play with more fun makeup, and I'm starting to try and enjoy it again, so that's what this thing is today. Also, I'm really sorry. I gave Kara a snack before I started filming because I thought it would keep her quiet and calm, and I'm just realising now that she has been chewing very loudly, so I'm really sorry. She'll be done in a second. It won't carry on for the rest of the video, I promise. So Jeff starts this article. "My family was late to see Encanto, and I'd heard numerous positive reviews of the film. Having now seen the movie and finding much to enjoy, I nonetheless see problematic cultural undertones from the character of Luisa. On the surface, the character trope is merely another tired example of Hollywood being unable to present womanly strength in any way other than this woman is literally physically strong." I swear this man's never seen a film in his life. "This particular storytelling rinse and repeat is both exhausted and exhausting. Hollywood has collapsed feminine strength into a singular presentation, one that most conceals the ways in which women are distinctly strong." This is a man who doesn't understand metaphors, isn't it? Like, genuinely. The entire film is packed full of metaphors. It centers around metaphors. The family's insistence on keeping the magic going and the flame burning is a metaphor for adhering to strict traditions and resisting change. Isabella's discovery that her power doesn't just create beautiful flowers, but in fact all kinds of plants, including like spiky cactuses and all sorts, is a metaphor for her discovering a new part of herself and feeling like she doesn't just have to be the golden child and do what everyone else wants all the time. It's a metaphor. Julieta, the mother, her power is to heal people with her food, which is a metaphor for being the nurturing healer in the family who takes care of people. And Luisa is a character who on the surface seems to be physically strong, you know, carrying donkeys and lifting things, and she's muscly. But this is a metaphor for her emotional strength and the way she supports everyone in the family, both literally and metaphorically. She physically holds all these different things in real life, and she metaphorically holds all the burdens of the family. She metaphorically holds everyone together. It's not by any means a reduction of strength into a singular representation. It's simply a metaphor for all these different kinds of strength that she shows and has. It's very, very obvious, and the fact that Jeff either doesn't see this or doesn't want to see this kind of makes me worry for his ability to read anything beyond a surface level, you know, meaning into any media. He goes on to say, Luisa's hulky physiology is the most immediate aspect of her characterization and the component of Encanto's visual world that grabs the viewer most viscerally. The most superficial reading of her as a character is that her design is about representation for women who aren't shaped like the typical Disney stereotype. This idea apparently carries some weight in the broader culture, despite the simple reality that no one who sees Encanto has ever met a woman who looks like Luisa. Is he actually joking? Plenty of women are strong or muscly or just built bigger, and it's absolutely a good idea to show all different kinds of body types in films. Sure, she's super exaggerated, but that's because it's a cartoon and that's what they do. Few people have seen women with hair as long as Isabella's, for example, but you don't see them complaining about how that's over-exaggerated and cartoonish and blah blah blah, and no one's ever met a woman with hair that long and thick naturally. Just stuff like that, you know? They designed Luisa's character that way not to be some token representation, but because it made sense for her character. Like, you'd have pretty huge muscles too if you were doing all the things that Luisa was, the levels of physical labor she carries out every single day. If you gave Luisa the same body type as Isabella or Mirabel, for example, that would not make sense, because physiologically, even with magic, she'd not have the ability to do tasks like lifting 4 donkeys and carrying houses and stuff without a lot of muscle. It makes sense. Then there's a bunch of sexist, gross crap like Luisa stands above not just men in her life, but even enormous natural features in her world. She has a jawline to rival Dick Tracy. Scouring the entirety of the internet for a handful of women who can resemble Luisa under special circumstances is to prove the rule by demonstrating how scarce the exceptions are. We know what Disney's bigger than size 0 women look like. We also know what their muscular men look like. Below you'll find an example of each. Which does Luisa resemble the most? And then he gives examples showing Kronk from Emperor's New Groove and Nanny and some random lifeguard from Lilo and Stitch. And it's just a ridiculous example. How many times in life do you actually see a man who looks like Kronk? I haven't, ever. That tiny waist and big shoulders wouldn't work, wouldn't happen. You don't see him down the pub, do you? No. Because he's exaggerated for his character, because it's a cartoon. Crazy, I know. And you have to remember that these characters that he's comparing Luisa to here aren't comparable at all. Nanny isn't a bodybuilder. She's not even plus size. She's just a regular woman of a regular size who works as a waitress and looks after her little sister. Kronk, on the other hand, is literally hired muscle with superhuman strength. Of course, Luisa has a more similar body type to him because they have more similar abilities. Luisa and Nanny don't have the same abilities, and therefore they're not going to have the same body type. Kronk and Luisa do. But giving her muscles doesn't make her masculine, it just means she's strong. Look at other men in Disney films who don't have super strength and look nothing like Luisa or Kronk. Jafar, Peter Pan, Roger from 101 Dalmatians, LeFou in Beauty and the Beast. All men in Disney films who share absolutely no physical similarities in appearance or body type to Luisa. But it's okay to forget about them just to keep pushing your narrative, isn't it, Jeff? Jeff then goes on with his conspiracy theory that Disney is up to something no good with Luisa's character design. It's easy to see within the narrative as well. I cannot believe this sentence was seriously written by an adult expecting people to take him seriously. It blows my mind. Luisa is just one member of a magical family imbued with wonderful powers. Luisa's uncle Bruno has the magical power of seeing the future. One cannot help but notice that his powers did not come with enormous physical eyes. Bruno, as a man the family is comfortable exiling because he continues to tell the matriarchal community truths they find unappealing, must be reserved for another day. Also, terrible reading of Bruno right here. It has nothing to do with gender at all. Honestly, though, talking about Bruno in this film could... but we don't talk about Bruno. But seriously, talking about Bruno in this film could be a whole other video in its own right, because I quite like the theory that him and his ability are metaphors for autism, and that he doesn't really have the like filter or understand the same social cues that other people do, and that the family don't understand him and so exclude him for that. And I think that makes quite a bit of sense. But anyway, not the point here. The point is Jeff's take on Bruno here, his reading of this. He's not exiled because he challenged some women. He's exiled because they don't understand him, and it's a horrible thing, and it's absolutely critiqued in the film. They're not saying, oh, isn't it great that he was exiled? Let's do it more. No, they show how ridiculous and harmful that is. That's the point of the film. But again, nothing to do with gender. Luisa's cousin Dolores can hear anything. Again, the viewer notes that her powers did not come with giant elephant ears on the side of her head. The other madrigals look quite normal, all things considered for a cartoon. But Luisa's gift, her great strength, is accompanied by an entirely unique physiology, unlike anything seen in the real world she is alleged to represent. He knows nothing about how human bodies work, does he? Maybe this is the case because the size of our eyes and ears has absolutely no impact on their ability, or like minimal impact. You may not have noticed this, but people with impaired sight or hearing don't look any different from anyone else. Their affected body parts stay exactly the same as everyone else's in terms of like size and stuff. However, when a person has a muscle condition, their muscles do get visibly smaller. When a person goes to a gym or does a lot of manual work, their muscles get visibly bigger. When I have to wear my glasses to see better, that doesn't affect the size of my eyeballs. When I go to the gym, this does affect the size of my body. It makes sense because when we improve our sight, say we get laser eye surgery, it doesn't impact how big our eyes are. But when we improve our body and do more work, it does increase the size of our muscles. There's no like thing amongst humans where, you know, the visibly bigger someone's ears are, the better hearing they have. Whereas the visibly bigger someone's muscles are, generally, the stronger they are. There is a correlation there. Just the most ridiculous reaching argument from Jeff, isn't it? And then he goes on to complain about Luisa's voice actor having what he calls a husky voice, which I don't understand at all. The song Luisa sings that defines her character is filled with the imagery and angst of bearing responsibility for a family in the most masculine sense possible. Is this an actual joke? Plenty of women carry emotional burdens for their family, and like just because the song uses metaphors, that doesn't make it masculine. It's so bizarre and ridiculous. Like, this man's never read a poem in his life, has he? Like, listen to the lyrics, right? Give it to your sister, it doesn't hurt, and see if she can handle every family burden. Watch as she buckles and bends but never breaks, no mistakes. This describes just about as typical a female experience as I've ever heard. I'm pretty sure every mother, every big sister, every matriarch in a family has felt like this at some point. He says, of course, it could have been a song from an eldest daughter about caring for her family as a woman, but it is. That is exactly what the song is about. How does he not see this? But that isn't what Luisa sings about. She sings about doing combat with the world on behalf of her family because it's a metaphor. Luisa is in fact regularly paralleled with Hercules. At one point in the story, Luisa is asked by a villager to redirect the course of a river, one of Hercules' legendary labours. This parallel is made even stronger during the surface pressure song. Hercules is named and then seen running away from Cerberus. Who picks up the sword and shield to slay the beast? Luisa, of course. Again, because it's a metaphor. It's all a metaphor. Once again, Jeff is showing that he doesn't have to do more than a surface level reading of any media he's consuming, in which case I have to ask, why is he writing about media as part of an online publication? I hope he didn't get paid for this. I really hope he didn't, because it is a terrible, terrible reading. If he submitted this in like a GCSE media exam, he would fail because he's not looking beyond the surface level. It's like saying, ooh, the curtains in the room were red because they were red, rather than looking at like what those colours mean and represent and why the set designers chose that and what it means and how it influences this. The point is, Jeff doesn't know how to critically think about anything if we're basing his abilities based purely on this article. I'm genuinely shocked. Like, does he also realise that when she sings a line about lining up the dominoes, there aren't actual dominoes she's worried about falling over? Does he realise that when she sings about wanting to shake the crushing weight of expectations, she's not saying she's physically being crushed, right? It's a metaphor. You know what they are, don't you, Jeff? And the thing is, even if we talk about the actual physical stuff that Louise is doing, then Jeff is the kind of man to rant about how women need to stay home and be submissive because they're physically weaker and can't possibly protect people. But then the moment there is a woman who can physically do that because they're physically stronger, they complain about it. So are we supposed to stay home because our physiology demands it because we're weaker? Or should we deny our physiology if we're stronger because it goes against the tradition for women to stay home? It sounds to me like Jeff just wants to restrict women regardless and look for any excuse to justify that. He says, Encanto clearly isn't ignorant of traditional female stereotypes. In fact, the portrayal of women, drawn from the traditional family culture of Colombia, which woke Disney feels okay portraying, is quite excellent otherwise. Mum heals people by feeding them. Even stereotypical criticisms of women make it into the movie. One woman's emotions swing wildly from sunny skies to literal storm clouds. Another woman hears everything and is seen as an untrustworthy gossip. Okay, so what I'm taking from this is that Jeff is okay seeing women in films, but only when they fit into outdated stereotypes that he can use to criticize more women for. Women need to stay in the kitchen or let you complain about them for having emotions and gossiping for you to be okay with seeing them represented in films, right? This guy is genuinely intimidated by strong, independent women, isn't he? This is ridiculous. And then he finally ends it with saying, the developing human brain is a sponge, and its ability to uptake complex patterns of information is remarkable. Disney executives know their stories shape what children think of as normal. Can we hope that parents who rightly control what media shapes their children's sense of normal are equally aware? Women are wonders of God's creative goodness and wisdom. As part of an ongoing assault on reality, Louisa masks that truth by substituting masculinity for femininity. Women are strong indeed in uniquely feminine ways and in ways that contrast with currently fashionable destructive nonsense. For God's sake. I honestly think the only person assaulting reality here is Jeff, let's be honest. People like Louisa do exist. Women who are both strong physically and emotionally. Women who have to take on all the emotional burden of their functional or dysfunctional family. Women who have to stay strong because they feel that if they don't, things will fall apart. Women who live with constant pressure exist, and it's good to see them represented and being understood and being kind of told to feel that it's okay to feel this way and you don't need to take all this pressure on yourself. It's very, very important to show those representations. Disney aren't creating new ideas and forcing them onto kids for fun. They're just trying to be more inclusive of people who already exist and show all kinds of people and let kids know that it's absolutely okay to be exactly who they are. There's no agenda except acceptance and representation. There's no destructive narrative. They're not trying to tear anyone down or destroy anything or stop anyone thinking that they can do this or this or this. They're trying to say it's all okay. Families who want to see their children live well and come out healthy on the far side of our cultural descent into actual madness better get on this. Decide where Disney gets to come into your house and how to talk to your kids in a way that helps them love the true, good, and beautiful while recognizing and rejecting the kind of dehumanizing message Louisa represents. We live in a constant propaganda onslaught. This isn't the time to get lax. What the hell is dehumanizing about Louisa? The only thing dehumanizing I'm seeing here is your article. For God's sake. I am actually really grateful to see a woman in a Disney film who reminds me of my sister. I'm really grateful to see a Disney film that reminds me of my family and my own experiences. Not everyone has this perfect supportive family who they can rely on. And honestly, sometimes when I'm sad and I want to put a Disney film on for like comfort and stuff, because that's what I do. I like them, they comfort me, they make me feel good, the songs are nice, and they're like my go-to kind of like hug in a film. But when I'm feeling like really lonely, for example, or when I'm feeling down about like the whole family situation and stuff, sometimes seeing people who have these like wonderfully supportive parents and they're all a little unit and they all work together and blah blah, like it makes me feel worse. I was watching Modern Family for a while, like over Christmas, and I like binge watched a lot of it. And on the one hand, it's great comfort viewing because it's so like happy and uplifting and funny and silly. But on the other, I was like crying so much at all the really heartfelt moments because I was like, I have never experienced that. And I don't know if I'm ever going to experience that, and it made me really upset. So this sounds horrible, but sometimes seeing a family like your own and seeing a family that is dysfunctional and a family that make mistakes and a family that look like yours and knowing that like you can still come out of it being amazing. Like Mirabel is still this like wonderfully strong, intelligent, caring, kind character. And like, if I can look at her and be like, well, she wasn't supported by some members of her family and she still came out great, then that is a comfort to me, and that does give me a bit of hope, you know? Yeah, I don't know, sorry, I went on a rant there. I kind of went off script, off my notes a bit. Anyway, this is where the article ends, and to give a summary of Jeff's thoughts and what I think of his thoughts, I'll say that, God, Jeff, that is a lot of words you wrote and a lot of effort you went to just say, I'm intimidated by a fictional woman, because I know I couldn't do half as much as what she does. Admit it, Jeff. You're intimidated by strong women, whether they're real or not. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Anyway, that's me done for today. This is where I'm ending things. Thank you again so much for watching. Remember, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications so you always know when I upload new videos. I try and do 1 to 2 a week and put out as much content as I can. I'm hopefully going to try and start live streaming again soon, because I have been way too nervous and scared to do it for a while, and I've been getting in my own head a little bit, which is a bit of a pain, but I'm going to try and do some of those again soon. We'll see. Go follow me on Instagram if you'd like to see things like the Warhammer miniatures that I paint, like my little Chaos Demon here, and you can also go see, like, I post about books I'm reading and makeup looks like this, and I post a lot of like fashion and clothes stuff as well, because I like clothes, and also my like photography and stuff, and lots of pictures of Kyra, my dog. So yeah, follow me on Instagram if you'd like to keep up to date with all that stuff. It's just Rachel Oates, but with a 0 instead of an O, because my name was taken and I'm annoying like that. But for now, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions and all sorts of stuff down in the comments below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.